Welcome to another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're here with the first part of our 2025 Fans on the Clock draft. We've gathered together 32 people from across the UK and America, all fans of their teams, taking on the role of GM to make their first round pick in this year's draft. Joe, Byron, you're with me as always. Gentlemen, how are you doing? How are you feeling about the Fans on the Clock draft?
Love it, yeah. Always a labour of love, I guess. And I say that as
Yeah,
someone who doesn't do much of the labour. I know that often comes down to you, Paul. So, yeah, I
labour
love
being the
seeing it.
key word.
Yeah, I love seeing it all get put together. I mean, we are a little more organised than the Labour Party, let's say. But yeah, I love seeing it all come together, though. It's always really fun. And some of the guys, girls that do these things, I'll shout out the Saints in advance. They always do a great video for us. So I've got high expectations for the number 9 pick, if nothing else.
Yeah, the recording of this, the way we have to do it, or the way we do it, obviously getting the videos coming and stuff like that. So we're all over on the timeline of how and when we've recorded bits. If you watch on YouTube, you'll see because Byron has more hair than less hair, and we're all in different clothes at various points. It is an effort to put together, but I think it is worth it. It's great to interact and get so many people joining in and actually just playing through a draft as it would be. In the NFL, minus trades because we can't really do that. Then it would really take about 6 months to do. But apart from that element of it, it's great to kind of hear directly from people so involved in their teams of who they're wanting to take and why, and how that plays out and affects the board for the first round. Joe, how are you feeling about it? What are you looking forward to the most for our Fans on the Clock draft this year?
Yeah, look, it's like I said, it's always exciting. It's always interesting to see if someone makes an absolute crazy pick, because when that one happens, then it affects the rest of them. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I can't. It didn't really happen last year, so could it happen this year where we just have a wild pick and it just throws everything out compared to what we think is going to happen? So yeah, like I said, it's interesting what people think the needs are for the teams versus what, for example, we feel that way. So it's yeah, always exciting and great to get everyone on board and interact with everyone across the UK and some from the US who spot these specific teams.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll skip the news this week. Normally, we'd kind of delve into the news of the week. Well, this is going to be a long enough episode as it is. I guess if you missed it, Gino got paid, Trey McBride got paid. The NFL continued to not make it a fun league, and there were some other real changes. That was kind of it, really. So, shall we put the Tennessee Titans on the clock? Excellent. So, up first then, with the first overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft, we've got Travis May. He's a college football managing editor for A to Z Sports at A2Z Sports NFL, and you can follow Travis at FM_Travis M on X. But here's Travis with the first pick. Let's see who he selects for the Titans.
Hey everyone, Travis May here. I'm the college football managing editor with A to Z Sports, and I grew up a Tennessee Titans fan, so happy to be making their selection here to kick off the 2025 NFL Draft. So, with the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. The reason being, they can't run it back with Will Levis anymore. It was a nice experiment. He was fun at times, frustrating most others. And so we have to find, in Tennessee, a better option at quarterback. It's become consensus that he is the best option, given his mix of traits, athleticism, his peak efficiency metrics in his final season. Put it all together this past year. I mean, he started at Incarnate Word, and he was imperfect, but productive. Moved to Washington State, found some success there, but wasn't really a pro-ready prospect just yet. So he goes back to school, puts it all together at Miami, puts up some of the most absurd numbers last year to go with the traits that we always knew were there. So he is the safest pick, I think, that has a high floor, and really high ceiling to go along with it. So Tennessee Titans select Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. Let's hope they finally get one right.
Thanks to Travis May there, picking for the Tennessee Titans. And with the first overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft, the Tennessee Titans select Cam Ward, quarterback, out of Miami. No real surprises, I don't think, there. So Will Levis not really worked out. They were playing Mason Rudolph at times. Last year, the Titans looked to kickstart their rebuild with Cam Ward. What do we think, guys?
Slam dunk, yeah, has to be. Like you say, quarterback's not in the building, and Cam Ward, I think, by a distance, is number one quarterback in the class. So yeah, stands to reason.
Yeah, I think it's the most obvious pick. It sounds like the Titans have made their mind up already, taking him for dinner and all that kind of stuff, and wanting more from other teams if they do want to move up. Yeah, it's one of them like years where the quarterbacks is not the blue chip kind of talent like it has been a few years. It feels like I was curious where he would go. Cam Ward, if he was last year, would it be around the Bo Nix, Penix? Because it's not like they came into the year with everyone screaming their top 12 picks. But yeah, he's got the arm talent, the mobility. He's just got a few things to clean up in terms of like the sacks, and is a bit loose with the ball. And in NFL wise, defenses take the opportunity. Look at Will Levis; he makes one, maybe two mistakes a game, and that's the Titans losing game. So he's certainly got to improve in them kind of areas. But Brian Callahan finally gets his guy, his person he wants to work with, and we'll see if he can, work his magic. Like people say with Joey, with Burrows, but was it actually him or was it elsewhere? So yeah, it's the most obvious pick, but will it work? That's the interesting question.
I think I've had a good read of these rookie quarterbacks the last couple of years, and very early on to say that I've been completely right about them all. I'm real worried about Cam Ward's transition to the NFL. I think he's so unorthodox, and a lot of his things like coaches should have, and I'm sure they have been trying to coach just horrible habits out of him. My worry is that it's all just going to come to show on the top tier, the top level of the NFL, and he's going to get found out real quickly. He could be good. I have more of the expectation he might be out of the league in 3 or 4 years' time. I think it's that the floor is that low. I think in terms of where he could be, he could prove me wrong. Could be absolutely fine. We've seen on some unorthodox quarterbacks, find success. There's just not many of them. And yeah, coming into this situation as well doesn't help. I think this is very much a need-driven pick. And if you're just looking at if you were to say based on, talent, ability, best player available, I think you'd struggle to get Cam Ward in the first round. I'm that critical. That might be overly critical. Maybe the back end. Okay, maybe the back end of the first round. But I think there's easily 20, 25 guys that I'd take ahead of him. Not quarterbacks, just players overall, just to be clear. So I think this could be another one where the Titans just end up. I understand why they're going to potentially make this pick, and I understand why Travis is making it for the Titans. But it is just driven by need, and this might not set them up as best as another pick could do. So might be a bit harsh. I just don't think the quarterbacks in this draft are very good. So
yeah, I wonder if it's that transition, because felt like in Miami it was a very backyard football. Just like you said, it was a bit unorthodox. Just play what he sees, and it's not got the structure which the NFL does have. So it's one of the things: is he going to rise to that, and is he going to improve? That's his game's going to improve because it's actually in an environment where this is the way we're playing. You think of Callahan, his dad as the offensive lineman. They've got a structure. This is how it's going to go. Or is he going to be like what you think, where he's not used to that and he can't cope with that, and it goes disastrous. So that'd be I think one of the big reasons if he fails or if he succeeds is how he adapts to that change in terms of overall structure.
Yeah, and just some positives I think for him as well. Ultimately, a big part of the reason why Miami and college have become a bit more relevant again. They've been in the wilderness for quite a while, Miami, in terms of not being a top tier team in college football. I think for me, he'd have got a bit more credit with me if they really probably should have gone on and won their conference, the ACC, and been a part of the college football playoff, and that might have changed perceptions. I think I changed my perception of him a little bit, but he just got found wanting. And it wasn't him. The defense kind of struggled at times as well. But while early on in the season, they were just hammering teams, putting 40 on them all the time, when it came to November football, they couldn't get it done. And those are some of the criticisms I had about Caleb as well, Caleb Williams, about not being able to win and not being able to, win consistently and fell at the same hurdles. And those are some of the same criticisms I've got about Cam Ward as well. But ultimately, he has brought Miami back to some sort of relevance in college. So wasn't an easy task to do, and he's a big part of the reason why that happened. So some positives for Cam. Any last thoughts on Cam Ward?
I think you've said plenty. I think you disagree with me and Joe quite a bit, but it makes a good podcast, we hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's boring if we all just have the same views. I think, like I said, I've been pretty dialed in on these rookie quarterbacks the last couple of years in terms of kind of projecting how they're going to be at the next level. I'm going to be wrong at some point, and this is probably the one I'm going to be wrong about. Excellent. Right. Yeah. Cam Ward to the Titans. Next up, we have got Oliver. He's part of the Sleep at Work network on Heard of the Line. He's been on our show before. Good Teams, Win Great Score before. Helped us with the season preview for the Browns last year. So this is Oliver at UK Browns NFL, and we'll see who he takes with the number 2 pick for the Cleveland Browns.
Hey guys, my name is Oliver, and I am arguably the UK's biggest Cleveland Browns fan, aka the world's team. I cover all things Cleveland Browns on YouTube. You can find me there, as well as all social media platforms at UK Browns NFL. You can also catch the other podcasts that I am involved with, Heard of the Line at Heard of the Line, as well as Midnight Sports at Midnight Sports, both on YouTube and socials as well. So for the second pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter, edge, out of Penn State. The reason for this, pretty simple. In my opinion, he is the best player in the draft this year. Borderline generational, maybe, shall we say, in terms of athleticism at the edge position. Switched to a full-time pass rusher, full-time hand in the dirt defensive ends this year at Penn State, and he had 12 sacks, 24 tackles for loss. A very quick adjustment, and put up numbers as good as some of the best guys we've seen in the last few years, even decades. So pretty easy pick for me here. Browns should go quarterback, but I don't really think there's anyone worth taking at the second overall pick. So Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, I'd be happy with either, but for me, Abdul Carter.
Thanks again to Oliver there. And with the number 2 overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft, the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter, edge rusher from Penn State. Joe, we'll put your board up on the screen there. Yeah, thoughts on Carter going 2 overall?
I'm glad it wasn't a desperation need at quarterback. I think there's 2 picks you could make here that both make sense. I get the impression we'll probably see one of them pretty soon. But Carter, I think, is one of the top 2 players in this draft, position irrelevant. Doubling down, you get Myles Garrett on one side, Abdul Carter on the other. It's hard to say no to that. I think that's a really exciting pairing. And, as Myles Garrett comes to the end of his career, Abdul Carter will come to the end of his rookie contract, so that balances out really well. I think it's a smart pick and not one done out of desperation at a different position, which I think is always a smart way to go.
Yeah, love this pick. I think this should go. It feels like this draft, there's not as many blue chip kind of players. Like the first, top 10 players are great, and then the rest, the next 50 picks, it all depends on team needs and how they think about the certain players. But Abdul Carter is one of them players. I think him and Travis Hunter are 1A if he's saying the best players in the draft. So why not draft it? Why not get the best player? Him and Myles Garrett, if they're playing, that's going to just dominate. If he lives up to his potential, where he could be a double digit sack player. And then what did offenses do to the double Garrett or to the double Abdul Carter? Whichever way you're going, you're getting one guy on, one-on-one who's going to destroy quarterbacks. And yeah, I think the decision is a bit between him and Hunter. I just think with the Browns, get that front sorted. If you pressure the quarterbacks, it doesn't matter what the cornerbacks are doing as much. I think when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, how did they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? They put so much pressure and didn't give Mahomes any time at all to pick them apart. So go down that route, and you're going to get a player who, who's good against the run. He can bend. He's explosive. He has a field speed, which is not. There's not as many edge rushers in this draft who have got that upfield speed. So yeah, just get the best player, and then you're sorted for again the next 10 years like they were with Garrett when they picked him.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. His progression through last year, Abdul Carter, was phenomenal. It was the first year last year where he truly played as an edge rusher, and he looks like he's been playing there for ages. He's so good, so explosive. It's easy to make the Micah Parsons comparison, I think, with Abdul Carter. Plays at Penn State, wears number 11. Real easy to make that comparison, but I think it's a fair one, and I'm expecting him to have a real big impact. I think this is a huge win for the Browns in terms of, I think you got touched on it there as well. You get someone to pair with Myles Garrett, but you know what? Maybe you can't just double Myles Garrett all the time now, because you've got to account for this guy, and Myles Garrett does well with those double teams. If he gets more one-on-one looks, then he's going to be even more productive. And then you've got this guy coming from the other side. So, yeah, I think real excited to see what those two can do together. I think it's absolutely the right pick. Arguably the best player in the draft. I'm leading Travis Hunter, but he's a sentimental favourite of mine, is Travis Hunter, and we'll get onto him probably soon. But yeah, Abdul Carter, I think it's an easy pick to make. And like I say, I'd be shocked if the Browns on draft night do take Shedeur here. Really would be. Take Abdul Carter, make that defense so much stronger, and try and win that way. I think that's kind of where the Browns are at the minute.
And they've got a Super Bowl winning quarterback in the building, people forget as well.
Absolutely. Back in the AFC North, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Threw passes in the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah,
there you go. And there's been rumors about Kirk Cousins, and you always got to judge with the future. If you got Kirk Cousins, you're gonna, you've got a flaw. He wasn't great last year, but you'd rather have the best edge rusher, best player in the draft, and a decent quarterback where they can maybe look at that next year. I think it's just because next year's draft sounds like it's going to be full of good quarterbacks, and that's where they can pick it up rather than overreaching for a QB. And then you've got, you've still got Watson there, and it's just like a weird dynamic in terms of how the organization runs. So just that, don't overthink it, get the best player, which Oliver did, and great pick.
Excellent. Thanks again, Oliver. We head then to number 3. It is the New York Giants. So we've got the guys from Big Blue, UK and Ireland making the pick for the New York Giants. So let's see who they take at number 3.
Hi guys, Craig here from Big Blue, UK and Ireland. We're honoured once again to be asked to make the pick for the Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover People's Draft. Now, without further ado, at the number 3 pick, the New York Football Giants take, much to the annoyance of one of our podcast members, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado. Now, one thing to kind of bear in mind, this pick was made prior to the Giants signing Winston, let alone Wilson. So maybe there is a discussion that this pick stays the same regardless of those signings, or maybe the pick would have changed if we had that information at the time. But, if the pick does stay the same and the Giants do go Shedeur Sanders in the draft, then, you are picking up that quarterback of the future. And that's something that maybe the Giants need. It's not something we've had for a while. We look at the caliber of player, you look at the confidence of the player, how he dealt with pressure at Colorado, obviously with his dad being the head coach there. You would assume that he would be able to handle the New York media. I know a lot of people seem to think this might be a bit of a reach, and that you're kind of reaching for quarterback, especially with Travis Hunter there. But I think at the time we were very, very much in the idea that it was necessary. And, the consensus around the league is that would have been the pick too. However, that seems to be a bit more split now. But I think one thing's for sure is that when draft day does come around, this pick could be anything. But, thanks, guys, and have a great show.
Thanks again to the guys from Big Blue UK and Ireland. You can follow them at Big Blue UK IRL on X, Twitter, and Instagram. With the 3rd overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft, the New York Giants select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Just a quick note on this. The guys made the selection before Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson signed, and we were too far along to go back and ask them if they wanted to change it. Yeah, guys, do you think that, we talked about this on the last episode. It doesn't mean that they won't select Shedeur Sanders at 3. But do you think do we think that the Giants are going to make this pick here, or do you think they go somewhere else given they have Wilson and Winston in the building?
It's a very good question. I really have no idea what they will do. I don't think having Wilson and Winston in the building really changes things. If they believe Shedeur Sanders is the future, a future franchise quarterback, they should take him here regardless. They're paying $14 million for 2 quarterbacks this year, Winston and Wilson. That is not something to stop you adding a franchise quarterback. We don't know if they've done that because I think Sanders will go 2 or in the top 2, certainly. I wouldn't make the pick, truthfully. I like Cam Ward as a top quarterback. I think he's got a real upside and a real ceiling, even if, as you pointed out, there is a lot of flaws there as well. Sanders, I don't see it. To me, I think this is like passing on. I think Travis Hunter, along with Abdul Carter, are the best 2 players in the draft. To me, this is like passing on a Jamar Chase to draft Andy Dalton type quarterback, which I don't think you would ever do. So, yeah, I think the Giants, with or without Wilson, with or without Winston, I don't think they should be stretching for a quarterback here. I think they should have taken the Travis Hunter, truthfully, in best positional player, whether you play him at cornerback or I would play him at wide receiver primarily, but wherever you play him, I think he's going to have more impact on your franchise than Shedeur Sanders is going to.
Yeah, I agree. It's a curious one, because I think if it doesn't go to Browns or the Giants, it could be quite a bit of a slide, the Saints, or it could go even further. Sliding quarterbacks, quarterbacks who've slid down the first round have probably done quite well when you look at the past history with like Rodgers and quite a few others. I think I saw a stat like 6 out of the 8 biggest sliders from the pre-draft have turned out really well. So, we're curious how he works out. But yeah, he's not really got, he's not the best athlete. He's not got the best arm. He has that temperament. I think he can play in big games. I think he's got that big game ability, especially with who his dad is and all the surroundings around that, which there's always an issue when people go to New York. Are they going to be able to cope with the big lights and all that kind of thing? I think Sanders will be able to cope with all that. And there's been plenty of stories where he's been a great locker room guy as well. So it's good on that. And I just, like you said, there's not really the high end, abilities, the things you're looking for, especially like you said, with quarterbacks now, it feels like all of them are great athletes. They've all got, great legs and, everyone coming to the draft. But Sanders doesn't quite have that. And it seems to be like fairly average in a lot of these skills. He got sacked plenty of times, and their all line was terrible. But is that on him holding the ball too much and not getting it out? And again, you're going from college to where you're playing teams who might have one NFL quality player to playing teams where they're the best of the best. And is he going to be able to cope with that? And he's just a bit everywhere on everyone's board. But is the only with going to Brian Daboll, you're going to a head coach who is supposed to be a QB whisperer. So I think it's a good position if he does go there, because he's got the infrastructure with the head coach and surroundings. But are they going to put their job on selecting him?
Yeah, I think he is an interesting one. I think the differences in him and Ward, whereas I think Sanders might appear to kind of be the more solid, safer option with, I guess, a lower ceiling. But I think he's been geared towards going to the NFL for a very long period of time. And I think he's more consistent and he's fun, he's a more fundamentally sound quarterback than Cam Ward is, but then doesn't have the flash stuff that Cam Ward has. So, doesn't tend to turn the ball over. He's a pretty good decision maker. I think that point you raised about him taking sacks, he does keep hold of the ball too long, which again is something. But I think that's something you can be coached out. That can be coached out of you. And he's played in the bright lights forever just because of his lineage, and seen the attention that Colorado have got from being a team that was one of, if not the worst, in Division 1 college football to being one of, if not the most talked about teams in college football and viewed. So, yeah, it'd be great. I think if he was a bit more mobile, that would help, but that's just one of those things. So we will see, but I think he might get going quicker in the NFL than maybe Cam does, and certainly any of the other quarterbacks do from this draft class. So interesting to see. And yeah, again, I'd be looking at him going on Friday rather than Thursday is where his real value, where I feel he should fall in this, maybe just inside the top 50. I think that's fair. Any more to add on Shadir before we move on to pick number 4?
I have a quick stat about his sacks, if you'd like to extend this 1 minute.
Go for it.
So in obvious passing situations, basically 3rd or 4th down and 6+ yards last year, or in final seasons, FBS quarterbacks in their final season since 2011, the worst is -93 rushing yards. Sacks count as lost yardage. Shadir Sanders is second in that period of -84. The most successful quarterback to do that in the NFL, the worst yardage is -33 from Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert was -32. Dak was -9. C.J. Stroud was -6. Everyone else who's been a successful quarterback in the NFL is positive. Shadir Sanders was -84 last year. It does not speak to a player who knows when to get rid of the ball, doesn't know how to kill a play when it's not working. He's extending plays when he shouldn't, and essentially he's just eating sacks. It's not a decision-making process. Yeah, you can get rid of it and you can coach it out, but I don't think it bodes well.
Excellent. Great stat. Good work, Byron. First great stat of the Fans on the Clock draft. There'll be many more, no doubt. Thanks to the guys again at Big Blue UK and Ireland. Follow them at Big Blue UK IRL for all things New York Giants. We're moving on to pick 4. We have got a new picker for the New England Patriots. I've got Claire Cooper, host of A Claire Perspective Patriots podcast, which is available on Full Press Patriots. Easy for me to say. Let's see who Claire picks with the number 4 overall pick.
Hi there, you lovely lot. Claire Cooper here. You may know me from A Claire Perspective, Patriots podcast, been going about 4 years, or patspropaganda.com, or the Pats Procrastination YouTube show at patspropaganda.com. Either way, I am here and blessed to be representing Patriots Nation, and therefore, with the 4th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Travis Hunter, defensive back, Colorado. Now, folks, I say defensive back as that's what NFL.com have him as officially, but we know him as a cornerback / wide receiver. And whilst left tackle is a very significant need, that's where the Patriots should plug him in as a wide receiver. They couldn't miss on this generational talent to add sparkle to that Drake May offense. So there you have it, folks. On to 2025. Go Pats!
Thanks to Claire there from A Claire Perspective. With the 4th overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft, the New England Patriots select Travis Hunter, cornerback / wide receiver out of Colorado. I'll let you two guys take this one before I wax lyrical about Travis Hunter. What do you think of Hunter at 4?
It's Travis Hunter Heisman winner, right?
28 to 1. Heisman winner, I'll have you know.
Yeah, I thought he was around that, yeah. Smash, great pick. Again, my comments on Shadir Sanders kind of tell you, I guess, what I think of Travis Hunter. I would have taken him 2 or 3, certainly. I think he's a very, very special player. I can't wait to see what the NFL does with him, whichever team it is that takes him. I kind of think New England might go more cornerback than wide receiver, which I think is a bit of a shame for the viewing public. But I think it's a can't-miss player here, whatever you use him as. I'd love to see how he does trying to do it both ways. Everyone said you couldn't do it with Ohtani, and then he does it. Different sport, more physical, I understand all that, but no one's ever done it to his level in college either, so I can't wait to see what he's made of, but I think it's an absolute slam dunk. Great pick by the Patriots, great pick by Claire.
Yeah, I think if it goes how this draft's going to. They'll be praying and hoping 2 quarterbacks go beforehand. The Patriots, similar to last year, have got the easiest pick, basically. Hunter or Carter, whoever's left out of them. And yeah, Hunter's is on plenty of people's board as the best player available. I'm curious why you thought cornerback. I would see him as a wide receiver for the Patriots just because the lack of depth on wide receiver, while the cornerbacks have got Carlton Davis and Gonzalez. So I'd be curious where they do play him. I wonder if looking at the latest contracts where Chase has got 40 million as the best wide receiver and Stingley only getting 30 million with the best cornerback, it might make that decision. But then also it sounds like, especially the film study, that it might have to be in the cornerback room a lot more because they have to do a lot more film study and trying to work all that, and then just be able to do his standard route. And because he's just so good as a wide receiver, he's got deceptive speed, his hands, his this hand-eye coordination, he's getting that ball is like, for some scouts, it's the best they've ever seen in any drafts. So if he just knows his route and May just has to throw it up there and he's going to come down with it, then it's a massive win. And the Patriots have basically picked 2 players at pick 4 if you can play both. So yeah, the Patriots, I think this will be the kind of one where when it happens, we'll be sat there thinking, come on, we know who you're picking.
Yeah.
Don't hang on for 3 minutes. Just run up on that stage and get it sorted. Winner.
And just a quick note on why I think it'll be CB over wide receiver in New England is because Mike Vrabel. I don't think offensive excitement is top of his list. I don't think that means he won't play any wide receiver, but I think he'll primarily be a corner in New England. I hope I'm wrong, like I say, because I think it'll be a better everybody viewing. If he's a wide receiver, I just view Vrabel as defensive first coach, and hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think for me, I think he's just ahead of Abdul Carter as the best player in this draft. I think we're going to see him play both ways more than people think. Everybody, they all told him he couldn't do it at college, and they just didn't come off the field. Played special teams at times as well, like literally didn't come off the field. I think you see him a big chunk. I kind of agree if he goes to the Patriots. I kind of agree with Byron. I think he'll be primarily a corner, but used a hell of a lot in on offense. We're going to see him. I think we're going to see him do, what players did in the 70s and 60s and stuff like that sort of stuff. Like he's going to play both ways more than Dion did. Is he
going to do what Mr. Perfect did and he throws the ball and then runs down the field and catches it himself?
Maybe, yeah. But an incredible, like last year, he had 96 receptions, 1,250 yards, 15 touchdowns, as well as being one of the top corners in college football, probably the top corner in college football. So, yeah, he's just got better and better and better. And crazy when you think of his journey as well. Like he chose to go with Dion to, Dion Sanders, Coach Byron, to Jackson State. He was the number 1 overall recruit in the country. So the expectation was going to be that he'd go to a massive school. He didn't follow that path. Shown he could do it there. Come into the top level of college football. Done it there. In the Big 12 and they switch conferences. But yeah, best player in the draft by him, like I say, just ahead of Carter, but then a long way to anybody else. I think he's going to be incredible. I think he can win an MVP quite quickly. I think he's going to be that good. When we know, obviously, we see this it's a quarterback award. I think he's going to win MVP.
You'll get a bigger price than 28-1 for him to do it.
Within the first 3 or 4 seasons.
No wide receiver ever has. I don't believe a cornerback ever has. So, yeah, you start staking that year 1.
He's going to be that good. Right, it's just more that you've not seen anybody do it before. I think that's the thing with it, and to that level, very excited to see what he does. Cool, right? I'll stop going about Travis Hunter because this could be 20 minutes about me waxing lyrical about how great he is, and nobody needs that. I did enough of that last year, so when he wasn't even in the NFL. Pick number 5, we have got.
Travis,
thank you. Who helped us out with pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gonna be taking, it's the 5th overall pick, isn't it? So let's see who Travis takes for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Holmes, thank you, at Travis D. Holmes on X, Twitter, or Blue Sky. Beat reporter for Big Cat Country.
Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com and the Duval Dive Podcast here, making your Jacksonville Jaguar selection. And in the 2025 NFL Draft, your Jacksonville Jaguars select defensive tackle, University of Michigan, Mason Graham. Not going to make the easy decisions hard here, man. The Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2024 NFL season were the second worst team for pass rush win rate for interior defensive linemen. Enter Mason Graham. He's one of the most technically refined, explosive pass rushers in this group. But not only that, he's also the number 1 run-stopping defensive tackle in football per Pro Football Focus. But though you combine that with the Jacksonville Jaguars already having Mason Smith, Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton, and you pair those guys with the explosive bunch of Josh Hines, Allen, and Trevon Walker, and I think we're cooking with gas here. Again, not going to make these easy decisions hard. Add Mason and Mason to the room, and maybe we can bring Saxonville back to Jacksonville. Duval. Let's get it right.
Thanks to Travis Holmes there. Again, beat reporter for Big Cat Country. And with the 5th overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars take and select Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. This is, I think, where the draft starts to get a little bit more interesting in terms of there could be a few differences of players, but what do we think to the Jaguars taking what should be a big run stuffer in Mason Graham?
Yeah, I think he's clearly DT1 in this draft. Position of need for the Jags. Again, kind of talked about on our 2024 redraft. I don't think the Jags have huge glaring needs, especially this early in the draft. A position you'd want to take. But yeah, Mason Graham is big lad. He's only 21. Very bright future. I think he's a great fit for the team, and I think it's kind of setting a tempo and setting a tone for what Liam Cohen and the new GM are planning to do with the team and make them a bit tougher. I think they'll address the interior of the O-line in time as well, but I think beefing up the trenches is agenda number 1 for them. So yeah, I could see this coming true in real life as well. I think it's a real smart pick.
Yeah, I think this is one of them safe picks where there's no real weaknesses in his game. He's disruptive, he's reliable. He didn't get the most amount of sacks, he only got 3.5, but when you compare him to someone like Jalen Carter in the NFL, who only got 6.5 in 21 games last year, DTs don't have to get the sacks, they just need to be disruptive, and that's what he can be. There was a few, I don't know if doubt is the word, but it didn't help his case at the combine in Indianapolis. He was 24 pounds lighter than expected, and his arm reach was placed him in the 12th percentile for the position. So that doesn't help, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to be a great player. It's just some teams might be scared off because they have their measurables of this is the kind of length we want and this is how we do it. But I think it'll be great for the Jags. They need to sort that defensive tackle out, especially that run game. Armstead didn't have the greatest year for him last year, so they need to get these young players in. They drafted Mason Smith last year, who they're hoping improves as well. So just, like I said, beef up that line. I thought one interesting one, a player they could have gone for was the tight end Warren, with Engram going and Brenton Strange is their current number 1 tight end. So I thought that could be an interesting choice with how Bowers played last year, but can't knock this pick. I think it's a safe, high floor kind of player.
Yeah, I think it's a good solid pick at 5. This is basically a huge part of the Michigan team that won the national championship last year, not last year, the year before, 2023. And yeah, I think he's going to be real solid and transition pretty well. He's great size, and that ratio of size to explosiveness is scary. I think he's going to be problematic. I think certainly, and he's going to be an area that the Jags need some support in. So I think he's a really, really good pick. And thanks again to Travis Holmes, the first ever guest I think we've had Oh, the first person who's taken part in the Fans on the Clock draft is a former college football player. So shout out. He was part of UCF's team in 2004. A couple of big names on that team as well. Brandon Marshall and Matt Prater, the kicker as well, I believe was on that 2004 UCF team. So, yeah, getting some legitimacy.
Matt Prater was still kicking a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
He's not still in the team. Is he still in the league? I'm saying that out loud, and I'm thinking, actually, is Matt Prater still in the league? He was really very recently if he's not still in it.
Maybe. He was still kicking past 40, right?
Yeah.
It was with the Cardinals last year, so.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, yeah. So.
Yeah, he's like 41, I think. 41, 42. Oh, no, he's 40. Did him a disservice then.
Well, he's kicking past 40. He's 40.
Yeah.
And yeah, cheers, Travis.
Yeah, thanks again, Travis. Go give Travis a follow at Travis D. Holmes and at Big Cat Country for beat writing for at Big Cat Country for the Jags. We move on to the 6th overall pick in the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft. And I've lost my board.
It's the Raiders. It's Sal Lito.
Raiders. We've got Sal Lito. Giving us the pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's see who Sal picks at number 6.
What is up, fellow football fans? It's Sal Lito of Fantasy Cares and the SFB Podathon checking in. If you have not signed up yet for SFB 15, you still have time. And check out the growing list of live drafts coming to a city near you. Shout out to the Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover podcast crew for putting together the 2025 Fans on the Clock draft and asking me to pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. So at number 6, I believe the Raiders will go with wide receiver Teteroa McMillan. I believe the size, the separation ability, the contested catch ability is too good to pass up in this spot. I know a lot of people have Genty tabbed here, and I'll explain to you why we're not going to go in that direction. But first, if you go look at the Raiders depth chart at wide receiver, it does not exist. We have Jacoby Myers, we have Trey Tucker, we have nothing else. Pause the video, go look now, come back and tell me if you recognize one other name outside of those two guys. Of course, we have Brock Bowers, which was a huge coup at the spot we got him last year. We need Teteroa to round out the receiving core for Geno. Listen, people are going to say, hey, but look at the difference Barkley made in Philadelphia last year. Yes, Saquon made a difference, but Saquon also played with A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and Devonta Smith. We don't have that group of players. We're not ready for a running back to come in and make that immediate difference on this team. We did sign Raheem Mostert in the offseason, and we did get a little bit of excitement with Sincere McCormick last year before getting injured. I think those guys, along with maybe somebody else will come into camp, will challenge. Not to mention, the Raiders still pick at 37-68. Trevion Henderson and Dylan Sampson are in play in those spots. I do think that it makes sense for the Raiders to take the wide receiver, and that is exactly where I think they go.
Thanks to Sal Lito there. Go follow Sal at Sal Lito FF on Twitter. Also, he's a big part of Fantasy Cares and the Scott Fish Bowl Podathon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Sal took Tet McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona for the Las Vegas Raiders. As Sal mentioned, added to a almost non-existent wide receiver room in Vegas there. What do we make of Tet McMillan then? The first full wide receiver off the board, I guess. We've had Travis Hunter go. But I guess the number one pure wide receiver has gone at 6 to the Raiders.
Yeah, I like it. I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of people mocking Ashton Genty to the Raiders, and I can see it. You know, Pete Carroll run the ball, unless it's on the 2-yard line in the Super Bowl. Just got Geno in, they've got Brock Bowers, and, like Sal says, very little else. Our lads currently have Ramel Caton as the wide receiver 2 on the Raiders, do you know who Ramel Caton is? Nope, me neither. Just Wikipedia'd him. He has 1 reception for 7 yards in his NFL career. So not a reliable wide receiver 2, I would dare bet. Jacob Myers, obviously, a solid wide receiver 2. But yeah, Tet McMillan raises the ceiling instantly of that offense. Should be reliable for years to come. Very necessary. I think it's a more sensible call than Genty, who might be a bit more exciting initially. We all have a good rookie running back going in the top 10, but I think Tet McMillan gives him a safer floor and maybe a higher ceiling in time as well.
Yeah, I like as well. Obviously, he's a big wide receiver, 6'5", 212 pounds, dominant the last few years at Arizona. I think he's got over 1,300 the last 2 years and breaking records. I was curious with the Raiders. They're a team which just needs so many things, and they actually lost quite a few players on defense. I think it was underrated how much. So, yeah, I was curious if they would go wide receiver or try and get one of them top defenders. What's still on the board? I think it's a great shout. There's been question about his 40 time, a little slower than what people thought he would do. I think he did it his pro day, and there was different accounts to what actually his time was. But most people had it at 4.53 around that area, and a lot of people have been bumping up Matthew Golden higher than him. So it's one of them weird ones. And I think I said at the intro that this kind of draft it feels like from 6, 7 onwards till about 30, probably even lower. Everyone's so similar, and like I've seen Ted McMillan drafted at number 5, and I've also seen drafted like the mid-20s as well. So I think it's so over the place. But they need weapons, they need everything. So why not get the best player on their board? And yeah, I'll throw it to you, Paul. Do you think Ted McMillan's a better wide receiver than Matthew Golden, who is faster but a different kind of wide receiver? Who do you think will translate better into the pros?
Yeah, I think I'd take with McMillan just because his sheer size and his ability to go up and get the ball, almost kind of that trade-off in a little bit of speed for, just that size and that physicality. Huge catch radius being, as you say, you mentioned 6'5". So, for me, I think I'd take McMillan. I think he's probably easier transition and, should help Geno out a lot. I think he'll become a very, very reliable target. You've already got an extremely reliable one in Brock Bowers, as he proved last year. In a record-breaking rookie season for the tight end, but kind of pairing that with Ted McMillan, I think just gives you a kind of real reliable, wide receiver one, and it's just going to cause matchup problems, isn't it? Just with his sheer size, which throw that ball up almost kind of basketball style to Ted McMillan, I think at times. So tall. You'd expect him being 6'5", maybe to hold a bit more weight. He's only 212, as you mentioned. You'd expect him maybe to be close to kind of 220, 225. But I don't think it's a major issue. Kind of that skinnier, slender frame. But I think he's gonna do a great job out in Vegas. Good selection. Any more on Ted McMillan?
What's the next pick?
Thanks again to Sal for the Raiders pick. We're on to pick number 7, a returning GM for Fans on the Clock. We've got Fraser Campbell, the 2023 New York Giants International Fan of the Year. You can follow Fraser at Fraser C11 on Twitter. Let's see who he picks for the New York Jets.
Hi guys, Fraser here from Gangrene UK. Just want to start by saying a big thank you to everyone involved in organising this draft, and a big thank you again for inviting me back for the second year to make this pick. So we'll jump straight into it. So with the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the New York Jets select Armand M'Bu, right tackle. Right tackle, big need for the Jets. Think that's who they're going to go with in the first round. If not, I could see them going with a right tackle in the second round. But the way this board's fell, I think this is the easy selection for the Jets. Thanks, guys.
Thanks there again to Fraser. You can follow Fraser at FraserC11 over on Twitter. He's a member of Gangrene UK at gang_green UK for all UK New York Jets. Content and info for meetups and fan clubs and all that jazz. Fraser picked Armand M'Bu, tackle out of Missouri for the New York Jets. Addressing that O-line, you think this is a good selection for the Jets at 7?
Yeah, I love it. I thought he'd go earlier, truthfully. I thought New England might be interested, but I guess getting the option of Travis Hunter earlier takes that away. But yeah, I think he's tackle 1 in this draft. Big boy, 6'4", 330. Looks apart, can play right or left tackle. I think he started 2 years at right tackle, but I think he can transition to left as well. And the Jets, they need tackle help. They lost Morgan Moses in free agency, lost Tyron Smith in free agency. And, whether it's Justin Fields long-term or not, I think they're going to be running the ball a lot with Aaron Glenn in charge there. I think that's going to be a style of football. So, I think getting that line shored up ASAP is, priority one for, Gang Green.
Yeah, I think going to the Jets, it'll be their right tackle with who they drafted last year. Fashanu, you've got Simpson, Titman, and Vera Tucker in the middle. It turns into one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And, where we were a couple of years ago when Aaron Rodgers couldn't even turn his back before doing his ACL because there were doors open. I think it's a great pick. I was hoping you would slide down to the 49ers. That's who I want as a right tackle for the 49ers. But I am curious because I don't think there's consensus on who is the number one tackle. He's like come up a lot on the board, and it's mainly to do with his combine. And there's always that wary picking someone just based on like their combine, athletic ability versus the tape. Obviously, Will Campbell was felt like the true number one coming into this process, but his arm lengths didn't measure great. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. Obviously, Kelvin Banks, he was projected to go high, but didn't have a great year. Texas, and Josh Simmons started playing well at the start of the college season, but got a bad injury. So it feels like it's all up in the air for the best defensive tackle. But for me, I would have liked him. I think it's a coin toss between him and Will Campbell. But I am curious, do the Jets not take the tight end again for a tackle? 2 years running. Obviously, last year it cost them Bowers, which we obviously draft in our 2024 redraft. Do they skip over Tyler Warren? Do they want to miss out that big weapon again to get Justin Fields, that number one tight end, what everyone has been singing praise about? And, could he have that kind of season? Is that a better fit for the Jets rather than getting another tackle when they drafted one last year? I don't know. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, he's interesting. I think it's probably the right decision to make, invest this high of a draft pick. And, we're at the point here, when Fraser's made the pick for the Jets, that you've got your choice of them. And so if you've got your best offensive tackle still on the board at 7, then I think it makes sense to use that pick on them. I think it's more long one, like I say, whether Justin Fields is long for that job in New York, or we'll be seeing maybe the Jets select a quarterback maybe in 2026 early if it all goes wrong in 2025. But, if you've got one of your offensive line positions locked down with a, second year player at that point, then I think it's a pretty good position to be in. It'll be interesting to see what he does, because I don't know if he necessarily, as big as he is, doesn't necessarily play like he's that big. So I'm interested to see if that can be brought out of him at the next level in the NFL. But I think, where you are, invest in the trenches. I think taking Warren here might be a bit of a luxury pick that you're not in a position to take as the New York Jets.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just there's obviously with the Bowers, I think he slid down the boards because of some of the high tight end picks, which didn't go well. So we're going to get the reverse where people think, he could be out. Because, if you could get a Brock Bowers at that position, would you take him over some of the tackles who went pretty high last year? It's because he's that number one target, and then that offense is looking scary just on the targets based on Warren and the wide receivers they've got. So I think, like I said, I think it's a great pick. Sort that line out. But curious on the night where they go. But I feel like this is a sensible. But are the New York Jets a sensible organization with their new structure and new GM and head coach? So we'll see where they want to go. But I would say, where the Lions feels like they really started was when they got their tackle in place.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like he's starting to build on that. There's a team coming up where another defensive coordinator has gone to. I wonder if he do something similar. So I'll be curious with that. Obviously, a couple of picks later. So
Joe, stop with the spoilers, man. Start with the spoilers. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Bears. Don't worry. We've got that pick in. Don't worry. We're on to the next one. Pick number 8 is the Carolina Panthers. And of who else than Keg, Panthers Magpie, to make that pick. So let's see who Keg takes for the Carolina Panthers.
What's going on, guys? Keg here, the Panthers Magpie. And with the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Jalen Walker, linebacker from Georgia. Now, with Mason Graham and Ted McMillan already being off the board, this makes this choice a little bit easier. I think Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, makes this the hardest one to pass up on. But with the quality of the edge rushers still on the board, that's got to be the position of choice here for Carolina. I'm hearing that the Panthers could be quite interested in Mikael Williams, Jalen Walker's Georgia teammate, and with the likes of Shamar Stewart, Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., all still being available right now. We're spoiled for choice, really. And I would say Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama, could be a surprise pick at 8-2, but maybe he's a little bit too high. But for Jalen Walker, he's a North Carolina native, so feels like the perfect pick already for Carolina. I've seen many draft experts and analysts have Walker as the pick here. I've seen hundreds of mock drafts where Jalen Walker's picked number 8. And it seems to be the consensus pick among the Panthers fan base as well, from what I've seen online already so far. And yeah, we've just got so many holes to fill on that defense, which is why I'm 99% sure that this pick will be used on a defensive player, whichever the position. Ted McMillan still being available could throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Maybe even Tyler Warren could be an outside shout at tight end. But Jalen Walker's a versatile player who can cover both the inside and outside linebacker positions. He's deemed as a hybrid. But it is that outside linebacker role that is arguably the Panthers' biggest need. Last year, we traded away Brian Burns and ended up having pretty much zero effect off the edge in 2024. Jadeveon Clowney led the outside linebacker group in sacks with 5.5, tied with Ashawn Robinson for most on the team. But Walker seems like the kind of player with a lot of upside. He's set to be a bit undersized as a true edge rusher, but he's a tough tackler and he's got great athletic traits and he's got good burst off the edge. He was second team All-SEC last year, won the Butkus Award for best linebacker in the nation, led Georgia in tackles for losses and tied team leader in sacks as well, and is known for great leadership in the Georgia locker room. So that's something that we could definitely use. Georgia's had a habit of churning out dogs from their defense in the last few years, and bringing back dog mentality is something that Carolina needs, and what our new general manager appointed last year, Dan Morgan, spoke about since he got the job. He is an ex-Panthers linebacker himself and would self-explain himself as a dog as well. So he's got a good eye for them kind of players. He knows exactly what he wants. So yeah, I feel like the Carolina Panthers should be dipping into that Georgia talent pool and coming away with a future star.
Thanks again to Keg. Give him a follow at Panthers Magpie. He, of course, is still celebrating Newcastle United winning the first trophy in 70 years or whatever it was. So congrats again, Keg. But he's made his pick as the Panthers GM for our Fans on the Clock draft, and he has picked Jalen Walker, linebacker out of Georgia. Guys, you both really like this pick, I think, from what you've been saying. Jalen Walker, big hit for you guys.
Yeah, Butkus Award-winning top linebacker in the nation, and position of need. You know, it's what they've tried to attack in free agency. Last year they went heavy on offense. Especially the line last year. This year it's been more defensive line. I think he fits kind of a need there. They do need to obviously get Bryce Young some more pass catchers as well. I think maybe if Ted McMillan was on the board, maybe that would have been an option. Tight end maybe could have been an option as well. But they did just re-up Tommy Tremble. They seem to like him more in-house than I think the rest of the league truthfully does, I will say. But no, I think it's a good addition. Could cover off-ball, can rush the passer, can do a bit of everything really. So yeah, I think it fits a need. And yeah, good, solid linebacker edge combo. So
yeah, this is a team where we think about the offense and how depleted it is. They were the worst defense last year as well. They took a big downturn on that. So getting, one of the best defensive players off the board early, it doesn't seem like it's a deep draft for these kind of off the ball linebackers. So it's a bit like if you don't get it now, you're not going to get him later. And I wonder if there's quite a few wide receivers later on who could replicate or certainly in certain positions they need. They're just a team that needs everything. I think that's a problem. So why not get the best player? I've seen comps is similar to like Anthony Barr, where he's going to play on the edge and like doing the linebacker, play a bit of a hybrid role. He hasn't got the most amount of experience, and he's not the ideal build for a linebacker in the NFL. But I think they're going to try and, like I said, put him on the edge rather than just out and out linebacker. There is obviously a debate. What I've seen is would you go him or would you go Jihad Campbell, who's probably 118 in the linebackers? So again, it's the type. I think Jihad Campbell is a bit bigger and better length, but he's more valuable as a linebacker rather than the edge. While I think Jalen Walker's more an edge kind of guy. And you could have gone Michael Williams as well. But I think this is a great pick. You've got a good defense. Just how the season went last year. I think how the offense came on, I think they can scheme better that way. You can't, they're the worst defense for a reason. It's hard to scheme a bad defense up without these kind of players, especially with the head coach being offensive. So, yeah, great pick from Keg. Something else to cheer about. And finally Newcastle won for so many years. Can the Panthers do as well? Can't see it being this year, but fingers crossed for him.
Who knows? Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I think it was a bit early, but he's been making a surge up the draft boards by the looks of it over the last few months. So, you look, Panthers had great success picking a linebacker. It might not translate as a pure linebacker, obviously, but linebacker at roughly this spot. Keithley went at 9. He was pretty good. That's the biggest understatement that may have ever been said on this show. He was pretty good. So who knows, might work out the same for the Panthers at 8 here with Jalen Walker. Cool. Thanks again, Keg. Moving on to number 9, and possibly the highlight of this show. We've got the New Orleans Saints on the clock. We've got Dan and Mike from Saint City and Me podcast all about the wonderful New Orleans Saints and the great city of New Orleans. Let's see who they are picking this year. And let's see what shenanigans have got for us on the clip.
All right, Mike, it's time to make our pick for the good teams win, great teams cover fan draft. The Saints have been stuck in the Dennis Allen era like the Wi-Fi connection in the Superdome. Sometimes it worked, but mostly it just let you down. We need a game changer, a spark.
I'm with you, bud. We've got to go big. We need someone who can play, everything. On defense, an end, linebacker or a corner. On offense, I don't know, a quarterback, tight end, a running back, and maybe even a head coach if things go really, really bad.
But let me stop you right there, because I've got you. I have got you. I've got our offensive machine. I've been watching tape, and I've found our guy on offense, Tyler Warren. He's a Swiss Army knife with an actual chainsaw attachment. This dude is basically Taysom Hill if Peggy Carter fixed him up with a super soldier serum. Yeah, imagine Taysom Hill, but if he actually bench presses Ford F-150s between plays.
So you're talking about Taysom Hill if he had the speed of a cheetah, the strength of a rhino, and the hands of, I don't know, an octopus that maybe took the jugs machine training properly?
Exactly. This dude had over a third of Penn State's receptions last year. He was literally their offense. And he's not just a tight end. He's a cheat code.
It's like playing Madden on rookie mode, mate. On rookie mode.
Yeah, and get this right. He's 6'6", 256 pounds. That's not a footballer. That's an Avenger. An Avenger. Imagine trying to tackle someone built like a refrigerator with built-in Wi-Fi.
It's like Taysom Hill and Captain America having a baby. But instead of a shield, he just trucks linebackers for fun.
Exactly. He's out there, he's blocking like a left tackle, trucking players like a running back, and catching passes like he's stealing souls. The only thing this man isn't doing is selling Jucifer in the stands at half-time.
That's a shame. Wish he could do that. But I'm in. We're drafting him. The guy isn't just a football player. He's a walking insurance policy for bad QB throwing decisions.
Well, actually, on that subject, fun fact, he majored in public relations at Penn, so not only can he save our offense, but he could also handle the fallout of one of Derek Carr's press conferences because they inevitably go south.
Always. So he's a tight end and a PR specialist. Yeah, I'm in, mate. Lock it in. Tyler Warren, he's a future Saints legend.
All right, let's lock it in. Tyler Warren, baby. Woo! This is going to be more exciting than Alvin Kamara in open space on Christmas Day against the Vikings. Woo! Mike, you got the joke the Wi-Fi joke, right? You got it, yeah? Like, it's about receptions.
Yeah, mate. It just wasn't funny.
Thanks to Dan and Mike again there from the Saint City and Me podcast. Go check it out now. It's available on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts from. And yeah, go check those guys out. And thanks just for the time and effort of putting it in, because it's another absolutely cracking pick video. Tyler Warren for the Saints, tight end out of Penn State. So you mentioned a few minutes ago that maybe we're surprised that the Jets didn't take him. How do you think Tyler Warren fits for the New Orleans Saints?
I think this is the issue with, like you mentioned about the luxury pick about the Jets, for example. This is such a luxury pick for the Saints because they're the oldest. It feels like the oldest team. They've had the same team for the last God knows how much. It's never worked. They're going to finish about 8 and 9, 9 and 8. Around that time. So I love Tyler Warren. I think it's a great pick. I think it was going to be a great tight end. I think after the catch, he had 700 yards last year. So that probably gets the Saints fans' juices flowing. It's going to make that offense so much better. They just re-signed, again, another old tight end, Juwan Johnson. Was it Juwan? Yeah. So I think it's a great pick. It's one of them, like we mentioned in the 2024 draft, is like tight end. Is it that, the actual value of it in a draft? Should it be a top 10? I think if it's anything like Brock Bowers, then yes. I just don't think the Saints are the right team. I think the Saints have got so many issues across the board. There's plenty of players that could have gone for, especially on that defense, make that defense a hell of a lot younger, because again, that just feels. Yeah, but like the Saints just need all sorts, so why not? Why not please the fans, give them something to get cheered about, rather than just taking a lackluster kind of pick where. And I've seen one which would be very Saintsy, and I hope they don't do this. I've seen people suggest Shamar Stewart, where he's a highly athletic edge, and he's a little bit like the other picks, like Peyton Turner, Marcus Davenport, which they gave an extra first up for. Yeah. Let's hope they don't go down that route. But yeah, tight end. Another one I've seen, I'm curious, it's probably more Paul. I haven't seen much about it. Jackson Dart has been mentioned about being drafted this high. I've seen it in 1 or 2 drafts just because there's such a QB need. Some QBs been higher than expected last year. Is there any chance whatsoever the Saints do that?
So there's been a lot of talk about Jackson Dart potentially sneaking in at like late, somebody trading back up late in the first round to get in, one of the quarterback needy teams at the top that doesn't necessarily take them. So whether that's potentially the Browns or the Giants or something, I don't know. So I think the after Ward and Sanders, who we've already discussed, we don't think are particularly great. I think there's quite a big drop off. So yeah, I think that would be a very dangerous move. I just don't see how he would be successful in the NFL, especially if he's going to be taking him to spend a top 10 pick on him. I think more realistically, Jackson Dart goes on day 2, maybe at some point in the second round. I still think that would be high. I think it'd be at that point, talking about your Jackson Darts or your Jalen Milrose, someone's going to fall in love with him. Will Howard, Riley Leonard, any of those, Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, I think you should be going 4th or after if you want to take a chance on one of those guys, thinking that you might get something out of them. Because I just think the drop-off is that big and the bar is already quite low for quarterbacks in this draft. So, yeah, I saw some good things out of Jackson Dart at the time. Ole Miss got a couple of good wins last year. They beat Georgia last year. We love Georgia, where he played quite well. But, yeah, I think someone's going to fall in love with him because he's got kind of that big arm. I think he played baseball as well. So he's got that kind of that some of the quarterbacks have had play baseball and football. So somebody will kind of love that. But I think the success around him at Ole Miss was dependent on the scheme more than anything, not necessarily his ability. So yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong on someone, but if the Saints spend a top 10 pick on him here, yeah, I guess he'd sit anyway, right? He'd sit behind Derek Carr for a year.
It is one of my, not to get ahead of our draft betting show, one of my bets I've already placed, actually, it's dropped in price since, is the Saints' first pick to be a quarterback. Thinking Sanders might fall. I think they might take him at 9.
In that situation,
I think is. I'm not a tape grinder. I don't watch enough college football. I think that's as good as Shedeur Sanders. I think Sanders probably has a higher floor, but I think Dart probably has a higher ceiling. He's got a bigger arm. But I don't really think the Saints should take either quarterback at 9. I don't think you're really upgrading on Derek Carr, really. But it was 20-1 to the Saints' first pick to be a quarterback. It's now 8-1 after the Giants signed Russ and Jameis Winston. But you know what the Saints didn't do? They didn't draft a quarterback. They did draft Tyler Warren. And I kind of agree with Joe. It's a luxury pick, but if he is Brock Bowers-esque, then I don't think you can go too far wrong. Like, they could take a Will Campbell. They could take the best edge rusher, whoever they think that is. They could take Will Johnson at cornerback. I think there's a lot of, and I think it's going to be a theme, that there's a lot of really good players, but Tyler Warren might be the last, like, blue chipper, the best, like, position, maybe Ashton Genty as well. But the problem with Warren and Genty is they're not at premium positions. So what are you really saving by getting a really good one? If you hit on Will Campbell and he's a top tier tackle, well, you've saved millions over his 5 years or 6 years if you include the franchise tag. And Tyler Warren does have a little quarterback in his history as well. In high school, threw for 1,100 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, along with 700 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns in his senior year. So maybe just one way or another they get Derek Carr out, and maybe they've got their quarterback tight end lined up.
Taysom Hill 2.0, is that what we're
if any team's going to do it, I mean, it probably would. But let's just say
Broncos, Taysom Hill 2.0, possibly. We'll see.
I've got a triv fact for you, Byron. You mentioned about the Saints, your bet with the drafting a quarterback in the first round. The Saints have only drafted one QB in the first round in their history.
Is it Archie Manning?
It is Archie Manning, and the second part. There's only one other team who have only drafted one QB in the first round. Do you know who it is?
Is it the Carolina Panthers? Oh no, they took Cam and Bryce Young. Oh, that's a great question.
Do you want me to give you a clue?
It's not the Dallas Cowboys.
It is the Dallas Cowboys, correct? They've only taken
Troy Aikman, and then they took I forget his name in the supplemental draft as a first round pick, but I guess that doesn't quite carry over. I always want to say Steve Young, but it's not Steve Young. I'm pleased with that though.
There you go. Well done, Byron.
Excellent.
Just for a little bit of trivia and the fans on the clock.
Bit of trivia. Good stuff. So we're supposed to be talking about Tyler Warren. We ended up talking about Jackson Dart, but that's okay. Tyler Warren to the Saints. He probably will be fun for the Saints. So yeah, I think he's a couple of steps below Brock Bowers as well. Everyone wants to make a comparison, but I think a different kind of player as well. But he will be fun, no doubt. On to pick 10, the Chicago Bears. We have James Cooper he's the Bears writer for the Huddle UK. So let's see who James picks for the Chicago Bears.
Hello, I'm James. I'm the Bears writer for HuddleUK.com, and this is the latest instalment of Walking Drafts. So the guys at Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover have asked me to make the pick for the Chicago Bears, and it would be remiss of me not to firstly get a shameless plug-in for the website HuddleUK.com. We've got a team of 31 extremely talented writers plus myself producing content from a UK-centric point of view, and I'd like to thank all the Bears fans who made the Bears content the most viewed on that platform in 2024, especially my uncle who works in IT and gave me all those spare IP addresses. But on to the draft, and I'm ecstatic to see that Ashton Genty has fallen to number 10, so we're going to snap him up. He could be a generational talent, and at worst he could be the next Jay Ajayi, so an offer like that you just can't refuse. We're going to snap him up. The Eagles got rid of DeAndre Swift, and they won the Super Bowl. So I can taste the Lombardi Trophy already in February. So see you then.
Thanks again to James there, and that's the Chicago Bears writer for at Huddle UK. James takes Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State, with the 10th overall pick. I think this is as good a fit as any in this first round of the draft. Wouldn't be, again, I think it's very likely that this may play out on draft night, unless maybe the Raiders have something to say about it. What do we make to Ashton Genty to the Bears?
I love it. Difference maker instantly. I love it because they've done such a good job in free agency, which seems to be the Bears' calling card the last couple of years. But with Ben Johnson in there, the O-line beefed up. They've already got two very solid wide receivers. Cole Kmet's fine at tight end. Maybe there'd have been a thought of Tyler Warren if he'd have fell one more pick. But yeah, I think that offense will really be ticking if you got Ashton Genty in there. It's hard not to see it, really. He's such a dominant running back. I've seen people compare him, impact-wise, like Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Zeke Elliott coming out of college. And the numbers, to be fair, support that, which is wild. To get him at number 10 overall, those running backs all went earlier. Saquon famously went number 2. He can do it all. Can make you miss, can knock you over. And yeah, with that O-line largely sorted, maybe a question at Braxton Jones in the future, but yeah, I think this is a slam dunk. I think if you offered the Ryan Pauls his pick now, he'd happily tune out the first 9 picks and just say, yeah, we're taking Ashton Genty 10.
Yeah, I think in this run as well, he's definitely the best player available at that point. And yeah, that year he just completely exploded. He had a real good 2023, but yeah, ran for just short 2,600 yards, pushed Travis Hunter most of the way for Heisman. I've not seen a running back do this in college for a little while. Maybe you could say probably Barry Sanders, but there's been some others who kind of had these kind of years. But yeah, kind of almost 7 yards a clip, which is, outstanding. 29 touchdowns. I think he was even pulled out of games. There's so many games where he was pulled out like early in the third quarter or whatever, and he's already ran for 200 odd yards. If he'd have played 4 quarters, it's insane. He might have got close to bloody 4,000 yards or something the way he was going. So, outstanding season from Genty, and I'd be shocked if he doesn't go in the top 10 as a result for that. Just so difficult to bring down. He's small though, as well, but he's just so. Dense is the right word for it. Like MJ. Yeah, that's a good shout, actually. Yeah, that's that low center of gravity. He's just so difficult to bring to the ground, and typically takes 2, 3, or even more to bring him down. So yeah, be interested to see if he does that. How that is early into the NFL, whether he might just need to adapt his running style potentially a little bit. Saw Penn State in the college football playoffs do a real good job of him. They were just were able to keep him in like a net almost. And that kind of really rendered him relatively ineffective. So it'll be interesting to sort of see how he transitions in the NFL. But having a revamped offensive line that looks like it's going to be a real good one in Chicago certainly helps with that. And while a little bit different, I guess, I always these comparisons like Ben Johnson's might have found his Jahmyr Gibbs here. I think he's a cross of Gibbs and Montgomery. So I'd be interested to sort of see what Ben Johnson draws up for Ashton Genty. Joe, thoughts on Genty?
Yeah, it makes sense. He's probably the clearest path to become the Pro Bowl in year 1. If there's running backs at the mid position, what transfers from college, and he's as good as any. I'm guessing it's just positional value. That is the only question. You mentioned the Bijan, the Barclays. They are great players and they did make a difference, but did they make that massive difference which they're expecting? I think the Falcons have they got much better because of Bijan? Yes, but I think is it taken to another level? No. And how many years are you going to get out of him? You might have a great 5 years, and do you re-sign him? Do you not? Similar to how Barkley with the Giants. So it's that question: do you want to go with that, or would you rather go with an offensive lineman. You got Tunin, but he's 32, 33. Jonah Jackson didn't have the best of years so at the Rams, so he's not dead set that he's definitely going to turn into a great guard again. Do you get someone in on the offensive tackle, someone like Will Campbell we mentioned, who could play tackle or guard, and you think of the next 10, 15 years of a position rather than getting the clear, he's number 4 on most people's boards, so he's the best player available, but it's about the position. So I'm curious how that'll all work, and if they do draft him, the Bears have won the preseason 3 years in a row. So congratulations, the Chicago Bears. They'll be going to the season with their hopes as high as ever. But I like the player, I like the fit. I'm just curious if that's the road they'll go down, just because the position up where how running backs are valued within the top 10.
Harry Roseman will be looking forward to signing him in 2030.
Exactly.
Excellent. I was trying to think of a comparison for Gentry, and it's hard to be who's someone in the NFL, or even when they came out. Maybe Alvin Kamara.
Kamara went the 3rd round though.
Yeah, not in terms of that, but in terms of
Todd Gurley.
Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Ashton Jenney to the Bears. 10. We're on to number 11, and we are joined by Paul Hope from the 49er Faithful UK. Joe getting excited because it's his team up. Let's see who Paul takes for the 49ers.
Hi there. Good teams win, great teams cover. Paul Hope from the 49er Faithful UK. Thank you for inviting me to represent the 49ers in this year's Fans on the Clock draft. I'm delighted to announce that with pick 11 in the 2025 NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, Oregon. With this pick, the 49ers start to rebuild and reinforce the roster with a pick in the trenches. I believe Harmon can fill a variety of roles along the interior and will be great in our scheme, which has a heavy use of twists and stunts. This gives us a young player to start rebuilding a position of need. When making this pick, it was Harmon's skill set that stood out to me. He's got a compact build with fluid movement and quick reaction time. His natural leverage makes it difficult for opposing linemen to handle him. Against the run, Harmon excels. He reads blocking schemes well and reacts quickly. When facing double teams, he's hard to move. He uses his positioning and hands effectively, but his ability to thrive in the post-snap defensive line movement was another strength that stood out to me. Whether he's slanting outside to challenge a tackle or cutting inside to take on a guard or a centre, he's great at using his opponent's momentum against them. His versatility and football IQ will make him a valuable asset on this defensive line. His ability to line up in various positions and still impact the game speaks volumes to his skill set and his abilities. Now, I know some people may feel this is a reach at pick 11, but just like the great Sonny Weaver Jr., I went with the man that I wanted at a position of need in what is a vital draft for my 49ers. I know, as I said, this pick may seem a bit of a reach, but I just have a feeling that the Niners are going at this position. And given some of the players that have gone off the board, this was the obvious one for me. Thanks once again for having me on. A big fan of what you guys do. Keep up all the good work. Happy NFL draft season, people. And go Niners.
Thanks to Paul Hope again there, returning guest and returning GM. One of the great guys at the 49er Faithful UK. Find them over on Twitter, on Instagram. They've got their own show, podcast. They do live during the week and is available on YouTube. So go check out 49er Faithful UK. Paul takes Derek Harmon with the number 11 overall pick, the defensive tackle out of Oregon. Joe, Paul's decided to fortify the inside of the defensive line. What's your thoughts?
I'm going to have to disagree with Paul. Not the position, but the pick. I'm sorry, Paul. We can't just be all, Happinesses and rainbows. Like, I do like Derek Harmon. Defensive tackle is a huge need. Same as edge, same as the offensive line and the cornerbacks. We've got needs all across the board. I just think this is overreaching because of your needs, so the position, rather than just getting the best player available. And I think there's a few best players available where we also need as well. So I think Derek Harmon is the number 2 defensive tackle. Obviously, if what's his name, the first defensive tackle went to Jacksonville.
Mason Graham.
If Mason Graham was there, I'd be like, yes, D tackle sorted. But I don't know if you go to the second one, because I've seen him like ranked, especially if you look at Daniel Jeremiah's. I know it's not everything, but he's one of the best scouts. They rank him 26th best player. So I think that's just putting up the board to 11 just because you need a defensive tackle. We also need edges. I know we have Bosa, but we have no one else there. And there's a few edges available. There's Michael Williams, there's Mike Green, who's been mentioned. Who I would have picked would have even been Will Campbell or Byron, the cornerback. I think they're both ranked in the top 10. I've seen a lot of boards, and we need a cornerback because we've just had quite a few players leave. We need defensive tackle because, especially right tackle, we certainly want Will Campbell would fit there, or even inside, and you've got him and Pooney for the next 10 years sorted. Or you've even Jihad Campbell, because we've just lost Greenlaw. So I like the player. What I've seen is drafted mostly in the 20s. So I think this is just a reach, rather the positional need rather than actual best player on the board. And there's plenty of edges and linebackers and defensive tackle. What we also need available there. So I won't mind it. What I've read about him, he hasn't really got that. He's a great player. He's disruptive, but he hasn't got that athletic high end. He hasn't got big, really great traits. He's just a good player across the board, a good solid player who can break tackles. He can do in the run game. But I'm not quite sure. He's that bit too high for me. That's my opinion.
Byron, thoughts on Harmon after Joe just slated our guest's pick? No need for that. Paul's such a nice guy as well. What are you doing?
Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it's Paul Hope, but Joe maybe thinking he's more Paul Hopeless right now. It feels like which feels a little cruel to me, but it is a bit of a reach. I do kind of feel, but I do feel in this draft again. Said it a few times. It feels like after kind of Mason Graham at 5. It kind of is pick your poison a little. If you want a D lineman, it's him or Kenneth Grant, really. If you feel that's your biggest need. So I don't hate it. I mean, like you said, Niners have so many needs. Thankfully for them, they have so many draft picks this year. I think they've got the best part of a dozen. I think they might have 11, the most in the league. So trading down probably not advantageous here either, because you're just going to get more picks. You've got plenty already. If you think D-line is your biggest need, D-tackle, and you can piece together the edge play, then I can kind of see it. I would probably went corner, I think, either Will Johnson or Byron, but I can see the process,
Yeah.
And I say to Paul as well, what do we know? There's been plenty of people picked in the 20s who have turned into superstars. So
yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I think try to find a difference maker in the middle. I think it's part of that rebuilding of that line, trying to make it that dominant line again that served. Certainly supported to those 2 Super Bowl runs. So I could understand it. I think it is a big need for the Niners. Whether they do address it at 1 or later on, I don't know. But we'll see. But I like Harmon. I think can be a bit of a difference maker. I think he's not necessarily a prototypical sort of defensive tackle, but I think he will be unique in the way he wins at the line. And we'll see. I think he tends to, when I've seen him for Oregon, tends to be, he seems to have a lot longer arms that you usually see on a D tackle, and he is able to kind of create space that way to then sort of explode and make plays. So, and I think that's where kind of those quick hands for such a big guy help him out a little bit, where he doesn't necessarily have the true explosion that some of the other kind of big D tackles have. So, does it a little bit differently, but it doesn't mean it won't be successful. And like I say, it's just a lot more than one way to skin a cat, and he's going to find his way in the NFL. And I think if he does go to the Niners, he'll be pretty productive, Joe. Excellent, good stuff. Paul, thanks again for the pick. We're on to number 12, and it's on to our Dallas Cowboys. We're going back to back with the good teams win. Great teams covers. Guys, teams here. Our Dallas Cowboys up. We've got the UK Cowboys fans at UK_Cowboys fans making the pick for us. So let's see who they select at number 12.
It's a good morning from all of us here in Cowboys Nation as we are up at number 12 in the Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover mock draft. Entering the draft, the Dallas Cowboys really are looking at 3 positions of need, and given what's happened before us, we will address a need that became all the more glaring with the retirement of Zach Martin at the end of the 2024 season. So at number 12, our pick is Will Campbell out of LSU, 6'6", 319 pounds. Will is a 3-year starter at LSU, 2 years as captain. He has operated in a pass first multiple run scheme at LSU, Brian Kelly's more favoured way of operating. So they run about a 60-40 split in terms of passing set. Will is also a co-winner of the Outland Trophy for the most outstanding offensive line player in the all of the NCAA. He shared that award with Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas last year. He also wore the number 7 jersey at LSU, and for any of you who are big into your college football, you will know that the number 7 jersey at LSU is awarded to one of their most outstanding playmakers on their team. That has previously been worn by Grant Delpit, who is now playing with the Cleveland Browns. In terms of Will himself and the fit, he is a smooth and polished, well-rounded offensive tackle. He has really good footwork. His hand placement is extremely good. He has a lot of physical toughness. Whilst he doesn't have a lot of girth, his core strength is what makes up for that lack of what we'll call sand in the pants. In pass protection, he's an extremely fluid mover. He has excellent strike and hand placement, so he maintains his hands within the frame of the player to then set himself up as an anchor. So really good there. The issues with him, and this is a surprise to no one who's been paying attention during this draft season, short arms, and he has issues of being left on an island. So whilst he has had very good success at offensive tackle, he will project inside as a guard, which brings us back to the fact that he will most likely be Zach Martin's replacement in this scenario. His technical skills, his technical ability would be better suited to playing inside at guard, because what has happened is that whilst he is a very good anchor, he is susceptible to inside maneuvers from bull rushes. So obviously that wouldn't be as picked upon in at guard, because he would have his right tackle who would be able to help him out there, and his centre would be able to help him out. So again, very good projection. There is also another Dallas link in that he has worked with Duke Manyweather, who has worked with many of the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. So he's worked with Tyler Guyton, he's worked with Tyler Smith. I think he's also working with Brock Hoffman, who is probably going to be Will's competition for the spot at right guard for 2025. So in summation, Will Campbell, LSU, welcome to the Dallas Cowboys.
Thanks to Brian there from the UK Cowboys fans. UK Cowboys fans also have their own show. It's streamed on their Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well. So plenty of places to go watch that regular podcast. If you're a fan of the Cowboys or any other team, it's a great show. Always is. Paul Stewart, who's been a previous guest of ours, always on there as well. So yeah, great content from the Cowboys UK guys. Brian selected Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU at 12 for the Cowboys. Byron, what do you make of Cowboys selecting tackle again after Tyler Guyton last year? Will Campbell this year?
Let's go. Yeah, get a good tackle this year.
Get a good one, yeah.
I mean, and also Will Campbell, guy Reed, incredibly high IQ player, can play inside. At guard, if needed. I know there's been a bit of furore about the length of his arms, which were longer. He's pro-day than the combine. Seems to be a lot of weird measurements from the combine this year. So I am one of those that, especially on the physicals, where it's kind of, I think the combine done a bad job this year because all the pro-day stuff is lining up with like the senior balls, whereas the combine's been a bit of an outlier in shortening everyone this year, which I don't understand what they're doing. But yeah, he's been an absolute beast on the relative athletic score as well. That MathBomb puts together on Twitter and Blue Sky. 17th or tackle out of 13 or 1400 basically since 1987. I think he does everything you would want him to do. Day one starter. I don't want to say Hall of Famer, it's not Quentin Nelson, but like lock him in as a, franchise setting. I'd say offensive guard is probably the most likely spot he'll play in the NFL. But if it is tackle, I mean, all the better for it, truthfully. So yeah, zero problems, zero concerns. Just one of them that you tick off, put in your starting lineup and forget he's there for 5 years until you have to pay him. I think absolutely great pick.
Yeah, there's a huge need. Obviously, Zach Martin's retired, and obviously it's kind of started to come down a little bit anyway. Huge need there. I could see Campbell playing guard and replacing him. Then all of a sudden, you've got Tyler Smith's been good. Cooper Bebe did a pretty good job at centre. Will Campbell could maybe even play centre as well. He's got certainly the skills to do it in terms of the communication and the adjustments and the pre-snap reads. So I think it offers you a bit of flexibility if the Cowboys were able to get Will Campbell in, which is good. And then you've got three young studs, I think, there on that line. We had so long Frederick Martin, Tyron Smith, Cooper Bebe, Tyler Smith, and Will Campbell is a great way to start replicating that and making that whole line a true strength again. Because let's face it was a weakness last year for the Cowboys. So. Definitely an opportunity to fortify that and a realistic pick that the Cowboys would make at 12 as well if Campbell was there, because they've certainly not been shy about spending first round picks on that offensive line the past 15 years or so and aside from Guyton, and he's only year one, he might improve they've hit when they've gone for these O-linemen in the first round.
Dallas, as a rule, draft really well. They just don't manage it from there very well. But yeah, especially on the O-line. I remember way back, what year will it be? 2014? ? Being frustrated as a UK-based fan up at 1 a.m. and the Cowboys passed on taking Johnny Football as Tony Romo's backup to take Zach Martin, this boring guard who's just going to be a set and forget guard forever. Like, oh, come on, give us some excitement. And now, shows what I know, because as good a pick as you could possibly ever make at that point in the first round. So yeah, snatch your hand off for Will Campbell here. I expect to can't say he'll have a Zach Martin like career, but he, like I said, just set and forget it. He's absolutely solid as a rock.
I think the sad thing is, I just don't think the Cowboys are going to get the shot at 12 to get Campbell. I think he'll go before, but in this situation, it makes sense. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love this. I think if he's there, the Cowboys will be running up. He's listed as the number one, a lot of people's top offensive tackle. So it just depends. Obviously, I didn't realize about the arm length, Byron, so that's good to know. So because I think people were thinking if his arm length's not great, I think he was like 7 in the 7% percentile, so he would have to be extraordinary to be a great offensive tackle, which he could have been. So I'm a bit longer. Do people grade him as a guard or an OT? If he's OT, I think he'll go high. If people think he's going to be a guard, he might slip down. But he's got the fundamentals, the IQ, the toughness. In the last 3 years, he only allowed 5 sacks altogether for LSU, so he's coming out great. It's just like you mentioned, like where's he going to fit in? Is he going to be like a Peter Skoronski, where he came as a tackle, and the Titans were like, nah, you're just going to play guard straight away. I think with his talent and with his technique and his ability to recover, I think people, if the Cowboys get him, they'll try him at tackle, see if he can do it, and then just move into guard if needs be. But yeah, I think everything except his arm is a arm length. He's one of the best OTs and probably the best OT in this draft. So I think that's a great choice for the Cowboys. And yeah, sorting out that line, which took them to success the past decade. So yeah, huge win here.
He's sick of hearing about the arm length conversation.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of his interviews. He's just fed up of hearing about it.
And I've also seen,
because it's been so good.
Yeah, and I've also seen scouts being like, there's plenty of people with great arm length, but they've just been atrocious OTs, and there's been players who don't have it. So it's not it doesn't transfer. He could have that, but he just puts it a little bit when he's playing against edges who have got that long arm length and that certain technique. And I think there's been some mention about his flexibility with his 2 knee braces on as well, where you might not have the flexibility to be a great NFL tackle, and that's why they might put him to guard as well. But I think, why not go for it? You might go one of the best lineman, and if not, you go a good solid guard for the next 10, 15 years. I think it's a smart choice by the UK Cowboys fans.
Would you know who else had 2 knee braces and was at the top of his game for a long period of time?
Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Exactly it. There we go. Brilliant. Thanks again to Brian from Cowboys Fans UK. Or UK Cowboys Fans, I'll get the right way around. Go give those guys a follow. We are on to pick number 13. It's the Miami Dolphins, and we've got a very special guest making the pick. Nat Coombs from the Nat Coombs Show and Talk Sport, and also formerly of Channel 4 and Channel 5, Sunday night, Monday Night Football, which is my first memories of watching NFL here in the UK on the TV. So here's Nat with a pick for his Miami Dolphins.
Hey everybody, Nat Coombs here. I am delighted and I'm honoured to be picking on behalf of the Miami Dolphins at number 13, no less in the draft. That is a good sign. If we're picking at 13, it's probably going to go well. It also gets me that one step closer to my lifelong dream of owning an NFL franchise, which right now is kind of 50-50. But if I get there, as listeners to my podcast will know, I'm assembling a coaching team a minimum age of 70 years or older. It's otherwise you're not there. So Coughlin, I'm going to go Wade Phillips. I'm going old school. So if I ever get the nod, if I ever get hold of a franchise, that's the direction I'm going. But that's for tomorrow. Today's all about the draft. And Miami, well, they need a lot, quite frankly. Interior line is something that needs to be considered, but probably not a 13. I think there's value by all accounts later on. Are you going to really blow a 13 pick on a guard? Probably not. I guess the value when you're picking tackle, if they are a bust at, say, blindside tackle, you can move them down the line and get value 7-8 years out of a player there. But even though it's deep there, and maybe because it's deep there, it'll look second round. Tight end and just some offensive playmakers, something I was thinking about, but Tyler Warren is gone, so that's no dice there. Colston Loveland, the Michigan tight end, is a consideration, not least because Propo has automatically put him in his top 5 favoritely named tight ends in the NFL right now. And that's obviously a good thing if nothing else. But I think it would be a bit of a reach at 13 for Colston Loveland. So given that we needed all kinds of help in the secondary, with the 13th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Malachi Starks, safety, Georgia. There we go. What a dynamic player he is. Malachi Starks is a plug-and-play day one game changer. Exhilarating player. We need a bit of that, and we certainly need a lot of help in the secondary. So I'm going Malachi Starks from Georgia as the Miami Dolphins pick. Right, I'm off to record a podcast with the great Iron Mike Carlson, no less. Go subscribe to us, listen to us if you haven't heard the show already. The Nat Coombs Show, what a snappy name that is. Available at all good podcatchers. Enjoy.
Thanks again to Nat Coombs. You can go check out the Nat Coombs Show, available on, again, wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow at the NC Show over on Instagram, Twitter, and you can follow Nat there as well. Of course, a legend of UK NFL broadcasting. So thank you very much, Nat. And for his Miami Dolphins, with the 13th pick in the Fans on the Clock draft, Nat selects Malachi Starks, safety, out of Georgia. What do we make to the Malachi Starks pick for the Dolphins?
I like it. A position of huge need with Javon Holland leaving in free agency, obviously. I think they could have went a number of different ways there. Will Johnson still on the board, obviously. I think you might be reaching at tackle, which I think is another area of need. With seems like Teron Armstead is not going to be coming back to play this coming year, and that O-line interior need work as well. But maybe at 13, just a little too early. It's a little early for a safety, in my opinion. But I think team need marries up with player, and we've seen these safeties fall and then be, almost superstars at the position. Kyle Hamilton and Brian Branch spring to mind immediately. So if you get the pick right, if he plays as he has done in college, last season he was exceptional, contender for top defensive player in the year, college football award. So yeah, if you hit, absolutely, it's a team with a lot of needs. So I don't think you can go far wrong if you think they're too much of a reach at the all-line positions and D-line positions.
Yeah, I really like. I think they said safety is one of the needs. It's like a coin flip between him and Nick Emenwari. But yeah, I think he works well with this Dolphins team. He's going to have an impact straight away. I think he does rely on the scheme and the fit if he succeeds. And I think the Dolphins are one of them teams where he can with the players around him, because I think he'll need some help, especially when like the shifty, quick players, he might struggle, especially at the beginning. But yeah, like you said, the Dolphins are like a weird team where I don't really know where their identity is right now. And they need like a lot of players that you mentioned, the tackles, they're available as a few, which have got high upside, but they might be coming off a bad season or injuries. I've seen a lot of Kenneth Grant drafted to the Dolphins, with them losing Calais Campbell and obviously Wilkins last year. And then do they go cornerback and make that a big strength? One, again, I might be taking this off topic, so I do apologize. One which I was interested, because there's been rumors about Tyreek being traded. So could this be a perfect opportunity to get Matthew Golden here and then trade away Tyreek for maybe a high second-round pick, see what you can get from a team like the Panthers, who went defense to begin with. So it's certainly lots of options available for the Dolphins at this pick.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thought. But I think in Starks here, they get probably a top 10 player in the draft at 13. So I think if you just look at talent, ability-wise, I think he's up there. I think as well, what he'll offer the Dolphins is some flexibility and versatility, which obviously, great components to have in a high draft pick, where you look where he aligned in college across all 3 years. He also started as a true freshman in that Georgia team that went on to win the first of its back-to-back national championships, which is an incredible, incredible feat, given how stacked that defense was over those years, and still is, to be fair. But yeah, how stacked that defense has been the last few years. Incredible to just go in and play straight away. But yeah, sort of you've lined up a strong safety, free safety, and also played a lot in the slot as well. So I think he could conceivably play as like a nickel or slot corner and fill that role in a team as well. So I think he does offer a lot. She's kind of like a true playmaker. I don't think he'd be able to then line up wide as a corner, but I think he offers you flexibility as a corner, and then either safety position I think he could play. So yeah, really, really looking forward to see what he can do. I think he's a great player, one of the top 10s, why I believe he's one of the top 10 players in the draft. So getting him at 13, I think is pretty good for the Dolphins when you've got a lot of needs to fill. And you mentioned Holland, obviously Jordan Poyer obviously went as well. Experience, safety, true veteran, and yeah, getting Starks is a good way to start to fill those gaps. So yeah, like the pick for the Dolphins. Good stuff. Thanks again, Nat. Hopefully we'll have Nat on during the summer. It'd be great to sit down and have a full conversation with him rather than just a couple of minute video sent in, but hopefully we'll get him on. We're on to the Indianapolis Colts next. So we have Ed Peacock at Colts_GB. He's also the Colts writer for the Huddle, Join the Huddle UK site. So make sure, again, we'll mention that a lot. There's a few of those guys taking part in this at Huddle UK. I also write there as well for the Cowboys. Just a little plug there, but yeah. Plenty of talented people writing some great articles there, so make sure you go and check it out. But here's Ed with his selection at number 14 for the Indianapolis Colts.
Hey everyone, it's Ed here from the Colts GB X page, and I'm here on the clock for the Indianapolis Colts as part of this mock draft for the Good Teams Win and Great Teams Cover podcast, which I'm really excited to be a part of. So thank you very much for having me on. Before I get to my pick and my selection, I just want to say, if you're not already following my page on X, Colts_GB, please do make sure you check it out. Now, I'm a Colts fan, but I do like talking football with fans from every team, so please feel free to give me a follow. You'll also get a chance to see all the content and written content that I do for Join the Huddle UK, which is a UK-based NFL fan site, and we've got written content for fans from every single team there, so please make sure you check it out. Okay, so on to the pick. Now, the player that I would like to select here with pick number 14 for the Colts is Tyler Warren, but unfortunately he's no longer there. So instead of looking at another player on offense, I'm going to go the other side of the ball and look at another defensive player. Now, we've got a new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, and Chris Ballard's already been quite aggressive in free agency this offseason, bringing in a couple of big name players to improve that defense, because in 2024 it wasn't quite where it needed to be, and I think this is another player that's going to keep that feel-good factor going and hopefully improve that defense further going into 2025. Now, it might be a little bit rich for some to take a linebacker with pick number 14, but I really like this guy. He had a great year at Alabama last year. He had 11.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and an interception. Jihad Campbell, you are an Indianapolis Colt.
Thanks again to Ed there. Go drop him a follow at Colts_GB over on X. And with the 14th pick in the Fans on the Clock draft, the Indianapolis Colts take Jihad Campbell from Alabama. Another linebacker we saw Jalen Walker go a few picks ago to the Panthers, and we've seen Jihad Campbell go now. What are your thoughts on Campbell to the Colts?
I think in 99 out of 100 mocks I've read, roughly, I've seen a tight end go to the Colts. So it's very nice to see not a tight end, truthfully, because it is a need, but I think this is a really deep tight end class where you can maybe get one next round. Obviously, it won't be close to Loveland, but it could be Harold Fanning or another name, certainly. I like this a lot. I really like Jihad Campbell. I think he might be the most well-rounded linebacker in the class. He can, to my eyes, kind of do everything. He can rush, pass it, he can cover, he can defend the run game well. Yeah, I think this is a good scheme fit, good player fit. It's not picked out of desperation at tight end, which, again, seems to be the consensus on pretty much every mock draft you read. And I think for that reason, when things get too obvious, I have to think like that's just not going to happen. Like, unless you're picking the number one player, or maybe top 3 or 4 picks necessarily, but once you get to this range, I don't think just picking what you need is necessarily the best idea, especially in a deep class like this. So yeah, I'm all for him taking Jihad Campbell here. He's risen up draft board, I think, through the process as well. I remember, before the combine, I think he was kind of being mocked at the end of the first round, and I've seen him go even earlier than this in some mocks. So yeah, I think if the Colts can get him here at 14, I think they should be very happy with it. A good tone setter for their defense.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of him going inside the top 10. So
yeah,
here at 14, I think it's a great pickup if you can get him at 14. I think he's quite rangy and tall for somebody who's potentially going to play that role that you don't necessarily see a lot at the position. So I think he's pretty well developed from a pass rush perspective, but can play in a bit of coverage and cover that as well. So kind of a good mix of being good at being strong at several areas rather than just one of the areas. So we'll see how he goes. I think his movement's good. We've seen a lot, I suppose, of these linebackers that come out now are so good sideline to sideline, and he's another great example of it. So yeah, Joe, what do you think of Campbell to the Colts?
Yeah, I think they really have to go defense. I think if you look at last year, they took such a step back. I think they're 28th in yards per game. They gave up. So they need an edge rusher. They need a linebacker. You get, both with this pick. I think if this is how the draft board falls, the Colts will be very happy because you've got the picks of all the edges. You've got Jihad Campbell. I was still surprised Byron's not gone. I thought that might have been a good pick for the Colts as well, who always seems to need to have cornerbacks. They never seem settled in Indianapolis. But this is a great pick. I think, like I said, it's a coin toss between all of them. Obviously, he's going under shoulder surgery, but I don't think that should affect him too much going into next year. And if he, turns out how people have seen him as a Will Anderson Jr. kind of player, then the Colts will be super happy. And it'll be great for them. And Lou Anarumo will be very happy. with his new team, with his new player and his new defensive scheme, and how he used some players last year. He used Jermaine Pratt quite a lot on the edge, who's also a linebacker for the Bengals, so he would fit his scheme very well. So I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, they'll also obviously EJ Speed they lost recently as well. So again, it's another bit of a gap that they need to fill. So yeah, I think it fits a need, and arguably one of the best players available. So great selection. Jan Campbell out of Alabama. Next, we're on to. Oh, sorry, Byron. Go on.
So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to his ranginess you mentioned and his size. So a relative athletic score, which measures your speed, height, weight, burst, essentially, agility testing. He would rank in the green, which is your top level, at cornerback, free safety, strong safety, linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle. Truly a kind of Swiss Army knife. His best comparison at safety is Kyle Hamilton. He's not going to play safety, but just on his measurables, to have a player who can, like we say, can do it all, and the athletic measurables test out. We've seen him on film test out as well. Yeah, I think just a player like that can do so much for your defense.
Excellent, good stuff. Yeah, just athletic, freak, I guess is the nicer way to put it. And Joe, thank you for reminding me to put the slide up on, because you've worked so hard on it as we're getting to the end of the first part of this. Just around the last couple of picks there, we've had Will Campbell to the Cowboys, Malachi Starks to the Dolphins, and Jihad Campbell to the Colts. So pick 15, let's move on, and we've got the Atlanta Falcons up, and we've got the guys from Atlanta Falcons UK at ATL Falcons UK over on Twitter and Instagram, joining us to make the pick. So let's see who the Falcons take at 15.
Hello everyone, it's Liam from Atlanta Falcons UK here. If you're interested in checking out our channels, we are ATL Falcons UK. You can find us on pretty much all of the major platforms. We do a weekly podcast during the season, and we're always tweeting on X, as they might call it now, Xing. So without further ado, with the 15th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons are going to select James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. I think, the whole league's under no illusion that we need some pass rush help. There's a plethora of pass rushers probably available at this point. Which one is going to be a success, we don't know. But, I think we like James Pierce Jr.'s numbers. We think he could be pretty productive. So we think, we'll go with him. Good luck to everybody.
Thanks there to Liam from Atlanta Falcons UK. Make sure you go follow their channels at ATL Falcons UK. Also, they've got a podcast and show, so make sure you go listen and follow that for all your Falcons news and insight. Liam, with the 15th pick in the Fans on the Clock draft, takes James Pierce Jr., edge rusher out of Tennessee. Pierce to the Falcons. What do we think of the Falcons taking an edge rusher? Might be something that they need.
I've heard talk of this before, yeah. Pierce, he seems to be one of the wild cards of the draft. I think he could go anywhere from 10-ish to 40-ish. There seems to be a lot of kind of character concerns, people not too sure about him as a person, if not a player. So, you can't really argue with his contributions. I think he had 7.5 sacks last year. He can certainly rush the passer. His physicals are all there, looks the part, and the Falcons need an edge rusher. I know we say you don't necessarily draft for desperation, you don't want to, and there is a certain few more spots the Falcons could go, but my goodness, do they need an edge rusher? Matthew Judon didn't work out. The amount of edges they've tried every year, it gets to someone and go, don't give this veteran a go and see how it works out for them, and it never does. So I can't blame him for taking another swing, and I think again, high upside, low downside here. Floor ceiling range might be as big as anybody in this first round. So I don't hate it. I think you could have went safer, maybe a Kenneth Grant maybe to replace the D tackle who just joined the Bears, whose name obviously immediately escaped my mind.
Grady Jarrett,
thank you. I couldn't get Dexter Lawrence on my head. I'm like, there's no way he's joined the Bears. That could be an option. There could maybe again go line and try and boost to where they've just lost the center, but maybe a little early. But if James Pierce hits, this is going to be one of the best value picks in the draft. So again, I don't blame him taking the swing.
He reminds me so much of Will McDonald that the Jets took in, was it last year or 2023? It was 2023 when the Jets took it. Yeah. 23. He really reminds me of watching him of Will McDonald, and maybe it might just take a bit of time. So he might have a rough first year and then might start to grow. But I agree, like I say, I think there's a potential for a very boom or bust run that James Pearce Jr. has as well. And when you look he's been bouncing up and down these mocks kind of throughout the time, and kind of had a big jump towards the end of college football season. And then the last month he's been tumbling down the first round. So I don't know if 50, I think 50 might be a bit high for him. I think unless you're absolutely in love with him and convinced actually that he can convinced that the risk is worth it. But I think I'd expect him to see him go 20 plus maybe, or even like 24 plus. I'd be surprised if he fell out the first round because of just that raw talent and ability. But I'd worry him. Like, I think he's pretty easy to play against in the run game, which you'd want a bit more of a balance. I think you want more than just the situational pass rushers. I think if you invest in this sort of draft capital in someone, but it may obviously got the opportunity to develop. It is a huge need, so he's going to get the opportunity. You know what, sat here, I might be eating my words and go and absolutely smash it with the Falcons. But yeah, I'm always a bit high, but the need is there, so makes sense. But maybe then Mike Green's still on the board, isn't he, out of Marshall?
Michael Williams, Georgia.
Yeah, there's Michael Williams there still as well. Yeah. So, but we'll see. There's huge upside there, and that Falcons, pass rush certainly needs it.
Yeah, you are betting on the potential. I think like his ceiling, it could be a 3-down back, which he could play in a 3-4 or 4-3 defense, and just having that versatility if there is turnover at the Falcons. So yeah, it's for the Falcons themselves. If the draft feels like goes like this, you've basically got the pick of who you think the second best edge is. And like you said, I think all of them, like you said, Mike Green, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart. When I've seen all the top 50s, they're basically like 4 or 5 spots between each other. So it's who you prefer, and do you want to go for the high ceiling but lower floor, or the more sound and the one where you think you're going to get contribution straight away. So yeah, the Falcons have been the Jets have passed on the John Abraham was their last best pass rusher mantle, so that's now on the Falcons. So they're hoping that changes this year with that pick, because he could be double digit sack kind of player, or it could be in 5 years at another club and being passed around in a situation. So yeah, it's if you want to do the gamble or not.
Yeah, boy, do they need some production on that line. So we'll see. Right, gents, that's going to bring us to the end. So we're not quite at 16. We're still waiting on the 16th pick to come in. So we're going to have to end the episode here as well so we can get it out. So that's 15 of the 32 picks of the first round in. Tune in for part 2, which we are hoping we'll get out for next Friday, Saturday. We'll see how we get on, but hopefully it won't be delayed too much. Been a great start. Thanks to everybody who has made a selection so far. So I'm going to try and run through it. Thanks to Travis May, Oliver at UK Browns, Big Blue UK and Ireland, Claire Cooper, Travis D. Holmes, Sal Leto, Fraser Campbell, Keg, the Saint City and me guys, James Cooper, Paul Hope, Brian from UK Cowboys fans, Nat Coombs, Ed Peacock, and Liam from Atlanta Falcons UK. That was pretty smooth, wasn't it?
What a group.
What a group. Yeah, as always, make sure you go give us a follow. Good Teams and Great Teams cover over on Spotify. You can follow, you'll be notified of new episodes when they drop. We're also available on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Overcast, everywhere else you can get your podcasts pretty much. We're there now. YouTube, Good Teams and Great Teams cover, and then also Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok at GTW_GTC. And we'll be back next week for part 2 of our Fans on the Clock draft.